So today I am going to square up this quilt. I have it all quilted. I've done it with big stitch quilting. To get ready, I have a very small area that I'm working on here in Florida, so I have just a card table, and I've put down my cutting mat. It's only the 24-inch cutting mat, so I'm going to be doing all of my cutting right here. This is a king-size quilt, so this is what I'm going to use for, hang on just a sec. What I'm going to use for squaring up this and trimming this king-size quilt is I have a long ruler, I have my rotary cutter, and then I also have, because I don't have a larger ruler for the corner, I'm going to use, this is just a plastic folder for, putting office papers in, filing. So this has a nice crisp corner, so that's why I'm going to use it. Normally I would have like a large square ruler, but I don't have that down here with me because I have a much smaller area to sew. So I'm going to start with this corner, and I'm going to go right ahead, and I can see after you've done quilting you'll have some different unevenness, and so there's my corner, and I'm going to start there and use that as my guide. So I am going to make sure that as I'm putting this on here, I'm getting right on the edge of the folder and right on the edge of the fabric. I'm going to start right here. I like that I have a nice long ruler. So I'm going to measure this up from the corner, and then I'm going to look to see where's the thinnest area where the fabric comes in. So this has got to be the point at which I am looking to square it. I'm also paying attention to this area here, this border, because I also want this to be the edge square with the border. So because I have a smaller ruler, I'm going to have to eye that a little bit and give it my best shot of staying with all of those things in mind. I'm like, so here we go, corner, keep that right on there, all right. Lowest point of the fabric, and we're hopefully going to keep this nice and square. Okay, here I am at the corner again. I'm going to use my corner again, and I'm going to slide it right up to give it my best fit on the corner. Now you can see my corner is pretty wonky, so I'm going to use this corner here because I want some length here to play with. Okay, that side looks good, and this side looks good, and this will be a much more straight corner. Straighter than it was before. Okay, back to what we were doing. So again, we're at the corner. I'm going to reline this up because I got interrupted. That does happen. I'm going to switch this around again so that I can get this nice long edge. Okay, lay my ruler on. It's going to help stabilize this so I can get started. So I'm making sure that I am getting a nice square. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the line on my ruler so that it is exactly on the edge as well. So that'll help the ruler stay straight. I may need to move that a little bit. I'm looking to make sure that this area here stays pretty even. This is looking good. So I'm going to go ahead and cut. I'm making sure that my edge comes all the way out. It wants to fold on me right there, so we're just going to give it a quick hand pressing. Lining up, checking space. So even though I don't have a big space like I usually do to sew when I'm here, and even though I don't have all the tools that I love, again, I'm fixing this back to make sure it's flat and not folded, you can still square up a king-size quilt on a card table and a simple ruler and rotary cutter and a mat. Now you see I did catch that folder again. Not ideal, but still working, still working. We're gonna forge ahead, moving my king-size quilt. Ugh. Square that corner. Let's make sure I've got a corner that I haven't cut. There we go. Still looking really square. I can check that by looking at it here. Yeah, it's still square. Okay. I'm going to use it here. Put my ruler on it. So here's the line where I'm going to line up that edge. So I've got a parallel line, perpendicular line here. And now I'm going to look to see where does it need to be for the smallest part of the fabric on this side. So it's shifted a little bit. That's okay. It's not going to be exactly perfect. That's okay. So if I were to do this again, I would be a lot more careful not to cut that folder. So you can learn from my mistake. I'm still going to be okay. I could get another folder. I'm okay. Now you may see there are some threads on the quilt itself where I still have some threads hanging from where I big stitched it. I'll still need to go ahead and clip those. And I can do that anytime after I finish the quilt. You'll also see I do have stitching that when I big stitch quilt, it's not always perfectly straight. That's part of how I like to hand quilt. I like to quilt so that I don't mark the quilt, I just eye it, and I don't care if it's perfectly straight. Again, this is a family quilt, so it's not going to be anything that the quilt police are going to be judging. But even having said that, we do our best. Oh, I got to turn this because my mat only goes so far. I'll turn my mat. We do our best to make sure that it's as perfect as we can, but then you just let it go. If it's not, you decide what level of perfection do you want. And I'm okay with not super precision sometimes. Shoot for perfect, but accept pretty good. Okay, checking my edge, checking here. So this is where it's getting a little bit trickier because this did shrink in a little more. I think we're still good. And that is how you square up a quilt using just a card table, a rotary cutter, a file, and a long ruler.